Hello, everyone. Today we have two special guests for you, Malay Kim and Michael Lehr. They are both very talented stunt performers and fight choreographers here today to talk about behind the scenes on working on their recent film together, Mortal Kombat 2. Enjoy. There's so many great fight scenes and storytelling overall, but fight scenes in this movie. The one that hands down stole the movie for me was Kung Lao and Liu Kang's fight. So I want to go into what was the overall philosophy behind that action design, and then we're going to kind of branch off from there.
I think first and foremost, this is sort of like, okay, we're doing a Liu Kang Kung Lao fight. We know we had to like service the fan correctly. At the same time, we were like, this is our chance to like bring back evolutionary style of like the Hong Kong Kung Fu stuff. We're like, this is our chance. Like, how often do you get to do this on American production? It's mostly guns. It's mostly like modern style fighting. Like, how do we bring that Kung Fu level back to modern times? And that's sort of what Yuen Wu-ping did with The Matrix. Like, he brought Kung Fu over from the east to the west, and the audience was like, "Whoa, this is sick. This is something new," and it sort of just kind of died down for a moment, right? Unless you'd watch like an Asian, like a Hong Kong or Chinese film, and I was like, "All right, dude, this is our chance to light it up with some more kung fu flavor."
Yeah, like I was talking to some guys just last night and about how there was that real period like when the Matrix came over that we really got into like wuxia and stuff and like seeing like kung fu like in American movies, and like for a lot of us we were like, yeah man, we've been watching that for like 2 decades already. Or it's like for
Yeah.
since we were like kids or whatever. Like I guess I wouldn't have been like 2 decades old at that time, but like it had been around and stuff. So we'd been accessing like stuff that was made in like the 70s and everything. We were like, dude, how come no one's doing stuff like this, like stateside? And then when it happened, it was amazing, right? And then since then, it's just we've gone through this weird, like, obviously like things evolve. There's different eras of like action and everything, but like, well, I was saying like now we're more into like more realistic stuff with like guns and everything like that. So you rarely get an American production or a Western production in general where you have the fight is between two characters who are specifically only doing hand to hand combat. I guess with like a hat and fireballs and stuff too, but like also that they're like kung fu guys, like they're martial artist guys. And so you're trying to show off like that specific brand of like their styles and everything and that kind of choreography. And it does have this weird place where it just shows up in this movie. But I think like we all sort of felt like this was gonna happen at some point in time. Like if you know Mortal Kombat mythos, like just anything about like even the way the first movie unfolded, you're like, I'm pretty sure like they're gonna have those dudes fight at some point in time. And like when it does, it's gonna have to be a kung fu banger. So we kind of felt like we really, had sort of a genre to service, like it was us trying to honor the stuff that we came up on, like for the chance on a big screen, which you never really get the chance to do in Western productions, is like not nearly as often if you were to go to Hong Kong or something.
And guys, we all grew up on it, let's be honest. The 70s, 80s, 90s action films. Another factor going into this, I mean, the first movie kind of, Mortal Kombat 1 kind of touches base on, some like kind of fatality like things. But this one definitely, as a fan, you're like, oh my gosh, like he did the hat and the floor thing. And so what kind of freedom did you guys have going into the fight choreography and things like in stunt coordination on the fatality aspect into this film?
They give us like carte blanche, like almost like like
Yeah.
sorry, Vlad, you want to go ahead? Because this it
No,
was
no,
it
go
was kind
ahead.
of funny. It was during the time, so like when we were in prep, we were like in prep from like early stuff had been going on like the year beforehand, like in 2022. They were sort of starting to get like the ideas, the scripts together. That's when I first read the script. But then like in the beginning of the year, like when we were starting to get everything moving, and we were actually going to prep, it's like you could sort of feel like on the horizon there might be a strike coming or something. And then when the WGA struck, basically like starting in May of 23, like May 1st, it's like you don't get any more rewrites. Like whatever script you had, and a lot of productions like got shuttered because they didn't have a script that they could work off of by the time that the strike happened. Where it's like, no, we need to. If you're going to need another draft, like you're just not going to get one. But luckily, we had like most of our script intact. It was just that they weren't going to be able to revise it for any length of time until the strike was resolved and everything, right? So a lot of the stuff in the original script, as far as like action, like there were certain fights that were between like different characters for a while and stuff like that. Like it was a very very different script than I mean it's not super different. I'd say like with the way that the action is like laid out in it and stuff. There were like a lot of things that were not the same as what it ended up being. But because like I think we established really early on like a really good like bridge of trust with the director, the producers, like the cast. Like everyone sort of knew that with our boss with Kyle Gardner that like everything that we were doing was to service the story. And like they had had a working relationship before, like they did the one in 2021. And when we brought Simon in and made him real part of like the creative process, like here's what we're thinking. Are you okay with this? You know, like I know some of this stuff kind of goes kind of counter to the script. I think we're trying to get the spirit of what you guys are going after though. Are you, how open are you? And once he realized that we were, you know, or it's like it was just bolstered the fact that like we're there to help his, you know, movie come true and stuff. He was like, okay, whatever input you guys have, I want to hear it. And I, you know, and he ended up loving like all of it. And so something like Blue Portal, it was always going to be a fight between those characters. It was always going to end sort of with one character, you know, dying. But like when they wrote the action in the script, it was actually very, very different than what we ended up pitching in our like previs essentially. Because by that point in time, I think what we were like 2 months or like a month into the strike and we had to shoot this previs and we were like, there's no way we can tell the writer like, hey, this is what we might want to put it. It's like, no, whatever you're going to previs, this is a wild pitch at this point in time. Like you are swinging for the fences and seeing if they like what you come up with as fight coordinators.
I guess sort of to add on to what Mike was already saying, I mean, we were like a few months in already, and just we've already sort of built that trust of like, not to say that we knew what we were doing, but it's just like we kind of tread along the lines of the story and what we know with the ethos of the characters. Like, okay, these are two brothers, but they're on opposite sides now. What are they fighting for? Like, what's the story that the audience wants to see? What's the story that the director wants to see? What's the story that we want to see? And I think we were like just howling for like 24 hours straight about this. Not we didn't just show up to work and just thought about it. Like we like sat there, we thought about it. We did some choreography, like this might be cool, but how does it work with the story? We'd go home, we'd go into the gym, and we'd still be like in the gym just working out the fights, talking about the story. We'd go have dinner and still talk about the story. And the next day we'd come in like, okay, now with all these ideas that we have in our head, let's do some stuff and let's see where it goes.
So you,
Yeah, yeah, that one was wild. That was a wild one because like if I'll probably harp on it too much, but like you can cut it out later on. But
yeah,
the
post it.
when we were coming up with the fight, like even like the lines of dialogue to us could be interpreted like two different ways. Like when he
Hmm.
spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but when you know Liu Kang kind of gets his ass kicked and stuff, and then he's on the ground and he's like, "Don't make me do this." It's like I feel like originally when we read the script, it could be interpreted as all like, "Oh, I'm gonna shut you down." Like they
Like
play off as
anger.
like they're very
Yeah.
angry. He's angry at him for what
Yeah.
he's done, you know, at this point in time, and like and he's letting his rage. He's about to let his rage loose, and I was like, it all just doesn't feel like to us. It was like if Malay and I had to fight each other for some reason. Like we put ourselves in those shoes. It's like I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to hurt you. I'm trying to beat you into submission to prove that I'm right, so I can have us be together again. And that's kind of what Kung Lao says in that moment too. He's like, or you know, like, right beforehand, he's like, no, it's gonna be fine when we're to. It's like when this happens,
You're gonna
we're
join
gonna
our
be
side.
together
Yeah.
again, and it's great. Like you're gonna be with me. And it's like you don't understand, like we're on two opposite sides of the fence, and it just can't resolve that way, right? But it's like, please, like, don't make me actually have to start fighting, because it's like at that point in time when he knocks the hat back at him, you get this real sense of like, "Oh, you done goofed, son." Like he you open up the can of worms, and like now he's gonna actually go for it, and the end kind of comes pretty fast at that point in time. Like you really see him get after it, and it's what makes it like powerful at the end. I think we shot like six different endings to that previs. Like we tried to pitch
Hmm.
it six different oh he like like super combos at him and on him here like starts blasting fire like while he's and he like grabs the hat and he like puts it back on him. It's like it just felt like I wouldn't bring myself to do that to somebody. And so this weird thing of like being the monk of like being peaceful and like, kind of being like, well, I really can't do this all on my own. I sort of need you to initiate your own
Yeah.
fatality, right? Is sort of fun. So he sort of puts himself in that. We referenced the dizzy state beforehand, but when he kind of like just lets his hands like extinguish and stuff, it's almost like that moment of it's like a friendship sort of thing, like right. It's like he puts himself into a fatality state almost, but it's like it's a ruse and stuff to just pull him into this thing. But
Yeah.
it's like he had to absorb some pain on the way to doing this thing, so it feels like from an ethical like an emotional standpoint, like okay, like I didn't just destroy you, like I accepted that I was going to have to hurt as part of this process as well, and that's what makes it powerful. And then like Ludi's performance and Max's performance on that like really solidify like that last shot at the end. It's almost like that fight is near like a shot for shot recreation of what we have in the Viz, like all the way to like the end, just kind of like that slow pull out of him over his body and stuff. There was like a weird like vibe you get whenever you show that previs to somebody. And then, when you're starting to see like the playback edits of it, and people get real quiet at the end of that fight. In our edit, we edited that
Yeah.
way. Like we sucked all the sound out. You don't even hear the hit on his body. It's just pure silent. Like when you watch that viz, and you would hear people like starting to sniffle from just watching like guys in cardboard boxes and stuff. It's like it's the weirdest thing, but it shows that you can really tell a story through design and through the fighting. Like if you really like have a good setup for it, you know how to honor that, then like you can get real emotional responses out of people just with fighting and not even with any like lines of dialogue or anything. That's what our plan was.
And it's a really good lead up to when Liu Kang goes solo against Shao Kahn at the very end scene. So that's a very good lead up to that point in the story.
Otherwise, it's just
Well,
plot movement, right? There's no story, right? Like if you just have just an awesome action scene or fight scene, that's good eye candy. But on the other end, we want a reason why we care about that, and you guys knocked that out of the park. You guys, from your perspectives, having gone through all the previs and then coordinating and then getting that on set with Luding Lin and Max Wang. I mean, these guys knocked it out of the park too, man. Like absolutely talented martial artists and performers. Can you go into any anecdotal things behind the scenes with those guys on this particular scene?
It's pretty chill. I mean, like honestly, like when we came up with the vision, we were very confident in it. Like Simon, the director, like loved it. The producer, everyone was all like, "This is gonna be great." A lot of what we try to do is like it's great that they've already done the movie and stuff too. Normally, when you get an actor and you don't know anything about them or whatever, you have to kind of do an evaluation and see what are they capable of doing. Like what do they look good doing? What are they going to want to do? Sometimes actors don't want to be in the action at all. They just want their doubles to do it and they trust them and stuff. And other ones are like like Max's former like JC stunt team. Like he obviously knows how to do it. And like I think some of the allure of having a performer like that is that you want to see their skill. Like, you know what I mean? Like if Jackie had just coordinated amazing things and had someone else do it, then that's cool. But like a big part of why you go to see any of those movies is because you want to see him doing his thing. And that's what he's known for, right? It's a skill that someone's built up. But, we already had a wealth of knowledge about how good they could probably be. So we were like, well, I think we can just sort of get after it, just make it fun, make it hard, like, and then just trust that they're going to do the work and we're going to push them to get it right. Like there's this long shot that's kind of a trucking profile, like, where they're doing like a lot of like hand choreography and it's like tricky. Like, well, that's like kind of a lot of beats. There's rhythm shifts, all this other thing in it. And you're like, okay, well, run it again, guys. Like you're going to get it right. It's what it is. And then they were like going off to the hotel by themselves and like going like, just over to the park or whatever in the gym. And then they would just rehearse it themselves. They were so obsessed with trying to make sure that they got it right. You know what I mean? Because I think when they saw it, they also knew that like, oh, this is going to be a banger of a fight. Like we're going to sort of steal the show a little bit. Like, so you got to deliver, you know what I mean? You got to put in the effort.
Yeah, I think on Ludi's side, not that we felt that challenge, but I think for him personally, because he had to put on, well, he didn't have to, but he put on
He was so jacked.
roughly 30, 40 pounds of muscle. So he had to retrain his body. Yeah, he came.
It's crazy. Sorry to cut like interrupt, but like when we walked into the gym, like one day, like we all knew that he was like he was getting super jacked for it, because his double Tyson Tran had to like start getting like really fit as well. So he started like mass loading protein and stuff, and like cutting down all of his carbs and all that stuff. And we were like, oh man, like how shredded is he got to be? And like you'd see Ludi in rehearsal and stuff, and he's just wearing like sweatpants and like a baggy shirt or something. And you're like, okay, fine. I remember I walked in one day and he was like shirtless because it was, I don't know, I think it was just like burning hot or something in there. And like for some reason, like it was like super, it was just super muggy and stuff. And I think he might have been changing in the middle of it or something like that, putting a fresh shirt on, something. I remember I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a relief map of like of mountains. It's like he had like 36 abs. I don't even know how that's possible. It was literally like a comic book character. I'm like, I was like, yo, Tyson, I think we might need to VFX some of your muscles. That's impossible. I don't know how he's this buff.
when Tyson saw him, he was like,
yeah, he was super buff. Like
every single day. So after, yeah, like, and good on Tyson because he's writing lines, he's rehearsing the fights, he's doing all these things. At the same time, he's got to pack on.
And still be able to do all the flips and crazy stuff too. It's like
double the guy.
Yeah, it was
34 pounds.
It was crazy.
Yeah, and the good thing with Ludi is like he kept himself mobile. Like he was very flexible.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, there's this shot in the previs where like Tyson, it's the one where he gets hit and grabs him by the hands and starts to float up, and like it's super quiet, and like you would just see it
When
also,
everyone
like,
reacts to.
it's this heartfelt thing, but then for one shot, like Tyson grabs him and flexes like his arms, and his shoulders are like, they look like it's like
It
Samus
turned
Aran from
green.
Metroid, just like a full fake shoulder like on. And I'm like, dude, he's so gigantic. We're like, dude, why are you so jacked? He just downplay it and stuff like that. It's like, oh, it's the lighting. And I'm like, no, that's each one of your delts is like the size of your head. That's crazy.
No.
And it's just bizarre, like thing that was super distracting for one shot in the previs and everything, like in this emotional scene. But yeah, like that's those guys that do it. And if anyone like doesn't know, like if you're doubling someone, like I've had to double guys and put
Yeah.
on like muscle weight and stuff for it too, where like you really have to train different at that point in
Yeah,
time. Like
same.
you have to crash course that, because like they'll have like a much more time, I think, to like know that they're going to develop their body and
Mhm.
stuff and do that. It's like you're in the middle of like shooting previs and all this other stuff, and then also you have to find the time to manage your own body and get like up to size and everything. Then it's very hard to move. Like if you're there to do the doubling of like, yeah, I'm going to do a flip, or I'm going to, beat twist around this guy or something like that. And then you're like, oh, but now I have like, 15, 20 more pounds of muscle packed on over the course of the show. It's like, it changes the way you jump, the way you like move, like your flexibility, like all that stuff. And it's just this big mental gymnastics thing of like, you have to plan everything out. And
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes the doubles don't get enough like recognition for doing that sort of thing. Like if you have a really fit actor, it's like every double is gonna do it. Like they won't say no, but every one of us is all like,
Dude.
man, it'd be so much better if they were just gonna stick him in like a jacket. But no, I guess I gotta I gotta change what I'm eating for the next
Yeah.
like 3 months.
And I
Yeah.
want to also go into, you guys worked on several projects before. What was the first thing you guys worked on together? And also, you got this natural camaraderie with each other and this trust and communication going way back.
Oh man. Okay, so 2000
2008,
8 or
2008. Yeah,
7?
it was like the summer.
Was it 2008? We did this low
Thousand
budget movie
Bullets.
called A Thousand Bullets. That was never
It never came out. Like it.
that
So
was never made. I forgot what
yeah,
happened.
like it was
The
it was
shell
like a weird
company,
thing
like,
where, oh my god, like is this legally actionable? Is someone gonna like come and like sue us for like slander? So anyway, but no, it was like some non-union indie thing that we were working on like in the summer of like 2008. I want to say, like, because I remember I shot over on the Sepulveda Dam, and like we're just doing like thug stuff. You're like running around in a balaclava with like a gun,
was hot,
sweating,
we were in
sweating
mountains,
your,
yeah.
your ass off. It was this movie that was going to star like another like a famous sort of like martial arts guy and stuff, and then through a bunch of weird machinations, like the production had to get canceled, and so like people's availability wasn't like up, and so like the whole thing got like halfway through the shooting schedule, and then they just canned it. But then they ended up like shooting, like they took all the footage that they had before and just cut out all the shots of like the actor and then shot
Repurposing it.
new shots with new cast. But there's full on old scenes of the movie that are just still in like footage and stuff that just plays in this other movie that they turned
Yeah.
it into. Anyway, there's so whole weird thing when it's like, technically like who owns that footage, because like I think like the director never got paid for like when the movie got turned into a different movie. No one did or something. Yeah, it was a weird story.
anyone.
I'd have to look up all the details on it, but it was wild. But yeah,
Yeah.
like we were originally just doing
Yeah.
like stunt goon stuff on that, just running around like shooting rifles at people and just wearing balaclavas. That's like the first time I met a lot of the EMC guys, I think, too. A lot of people in the community were on that one. It was weird. But you go back into our history, all
Yeah.
of us did these terrible, like $100 a day features and stuff together. Like all of us, like we're sleeping in cars, like driving to sets and stuff, like sleeping there and then waking up because it's like you came from like your second day job and whatnot just to try and like pursue stunts. And we're like,
Yeah.
it's such a familiar story to all of us.
Oh man, that the heyday. So that's yeah, like Mike was saying, that's a lot of where like guys in our generation first started. It was that pursuit of like how do we do stunts? It's such a weird question to even ask. How do you do stunts? It's like, well, you just go and you do
Yeah.
it, and you just try to meet with the right people, and hopefully you get picked out of a line of 100 people for this job that pays next to nothing, and you sort of build a career after that. And after A Thousand Bullets, I would say it was a couple of years of just dry work. Like there's not dry work. There's like a dry spell of work.
It was weird because it was also like the era when like YouTube sort of first came out, right? And people like Malay and I, we had been shooting
Yeah.
like on our own, like in other areas. Like I was in Ohio and stuff, shooting my own movies in like 1999, like the year 2000 and stuff. Like we shot a bunch of fight scenes and whatnot because that was like post Matrix and post like Jackie like coming over in Shanghai Noon and stuff like that. Like it was like, oh, we
Yeah.
maybe we could do this stuff. I want to do this stuff too. And so or like we would all just get with our buddies and like shoot stuff, but we were all in different like parts of the world. And the weird thing is like YouTube sort of was the first time that you started to see everyone's work in other regions. Like we had to like we knew each other's work and stuff too, but it was you had to go looking for it. Like if you were going and find like the stunt people or zero gravity or something like that, like we knew where to find those videos, but the average person like had no idea. It's just like, when you find like an old kung fu movie or something, but it's because you went to Chinatown and went into this like little bodega and there's like a VCD that some dude burned or whatever with like his own printed out like label of the movie. And like you're gonna go watch that and be all like, yo, Drunken Master 2 in the original dub. And people don't really like you have to have an interest in that stuff and then also be willing to spend your time to go like source it out. And then it's another layer to be like a guy that wants to make that stuff and then is also finding the sources of other people who make that stuff. But like with YouTube, everyone kind of finally had a platform to put it on and we could like just go and like find everybody and like network and socialize that way. So like I had a group of people I was making stuff with, but it was like this very unorganized, or like we made stuff like every now and then or whatnot. And it was not sure if it was like action stuff, but it was kind of just like, there was like scripts and like it was supposed to be whatever. But like Malay had a team that was like legitimately making like movies, like figuring out how to like build their own dollies and like, running sound equipment. And like, that's what you did back in the day. You just saved up off of your day job until you had enough money to like buy some shotgun mic off of eBay and stuff. Then you stick it to a dowel rod and try to like rubber band it yourself so it has good sound. And then it's such a weird community, but like when you find those people, you just instantly know each other really well. Like you all have the weirdly the same sort of, you've all been kicked out of some park by the cops and stuff and like come back when they've driven away. It's like every one of us has done that thing. The fact that you can get us together and have us start making things, it means we just start pooling resources. And then eventually we started all getting like a job here, a job there. And so you would just hire all the guys that you'd already been doing fight scenes with and making content with. You just all of a sudden you'd be doing that Sleeping Dogs movie for like Clinton Jones and stuff, like out in the middle of LA. And you're like, I can't believe we're in the big time, man. It's like
that was a time where like, oh dude, we're actually doing stuff right now. But it's just still like another YouTube, like it was just another level above what we were already doing.
Yeah, but then eventually it just keeps on going and going, and the jobs get bigger and bigger, and like all those people. Because I think a lot of the times too, what people don't realize about the indie community and just about like show business or any field, I think technically, if you make good with a community of people, and then that community and the people you're with start to rise up the ladder, it's like you end up kind of going along with them to a degree. Like if you guys are all trying to help each other out and hire each other and stuff, and you're always training with each other, then like as one person learns anything, it immediately gets disseminated to the rest of his homies if they want to learn that and stuff, right? So when we had our little like indie stunt teams, even just our little like indie community in general, like the moment that someone was like shooting on an A7S2, all of us got the chance to see it, and like we were all doing fight scenes near each other where we're like, yo man, like what lens are you using on that thing? Like, dude, it looks so good. How'd you do this? And we just share all of our knowledge. And then at some point a producer's like, man, you guys are really good at this thing. Can I hire you to do that stuff on this movie? You're like, oh, crazy, you're going to pay us for it. Like, that's kind of amazing. You know what I mean? So.
And I love that too. Since we, Michael, we last talked like 5 or 6 years ago, I became a filmmaker, and not that I'm not knocking like film school, and there's like obviously stunt schools and stuff. I mean, those all have their place, but especially talking and interviewing so many stunt performers, like it's like, dude, just get out there and make something. And it'll be shitty, and then you'll keep going. Now that you guys have gone through so much, and like you said, the stunt community, if you will, they're a tight-knit community. It's all brotherhood, sisterhood, real family dynamic there. Malay, maybe you could start with this too. You guys have both, right? Written, directed, choreographed, so on and so forth. All the aspects of making a short film, a feature film, or whatnot. Can you go into like your approach? Obviously, storytelling is first and foremost. But, instead of like, hey, let's just do a bunch of action sequences or whatever. Yeah, you want good ideas. But how are you going into the creative process? Let's actually take, like, you're just creating your own film.
He just did this, too. He literally just did this, so. he just shot something like just that we're working on. I think we have reshoots like coming
yeah.
up. So
I'm still
this
editing
weekend.
it right now. We're doing some reshoots this weekend. So the progression of how, at least for me, was like like our very first little web series was called Warehouse Chronicles. It was just a bunch of guys who worked at a warehouse, and they would just get into like mischief, and they would just fight each other. And that was sort of the start of like, okay, this is the premise, and let's just have these guys fight for whatever reason. And then once we got into more deeper into YouTube stuff, we're like, okay, we know how to shoot fights, but let's make it entertaining. How do we make this entertaining? And we sort of just ripped IPs, really. We did like a Harry Potter short, we did a Matrix short, we did our Sleeping Dogs one, we did
The Smash
we did
Brothers
a couple
one
Street Fighter ones, and it's just like, how do we service the fans? And just the Smash Brothers one, we did like two Smash Brothers one. Oh man, there's so many. I can't. We
Those
did one
get
for
crazy,
Joker and
man.
Batman, and that just sort of, I think when you sort of like copy something, you start to understand why they do that, rather than just trying to do something new. In 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 reality, a lot of stuff has been done already, right? How many times have we seen
Yeah,
Avatar?
Dances with Wolves, The Last
That story,
Samurai.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it blew up because it was repackaged. Dances with
Yeah.
Wolves, Thumbelina, Pocahontas, all that stuff, right? It's just how you repackage it, and that's sort of our mentality with just whether it's storytelling or action design. It's like it's not you're reinventing it. You're repackaging it in a different way, giving it a different light, making it look different, making it feel different, and that's sort of our approach every time. Is how do we do this,
Yeah.
but let's put a spin on it. And that was sort of what me and Mike did on Mortal Kombat. Was like we know people are expecting certain things from this game. Like we know they're gonna expect it, right? But how do you make it different enough where they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That was fun.
I definitely think like well, like Malay, like you like his movie that we're still working on and stuff too is like such a good example because it comes from like a really personal place too. You know what I mean? Not to spoil anything, but he wrote it and it very much is about like a lot of his
No,
own
yeah,
life
yeah.
events and how you kind of like
Wow.
transpose those into a form that can be related to everybody and stuff and all that jazz. And I think that goes into just sort of any kind of like artistic craft. I tend to be a little bit more, I guess, pragmatic nowadays because I'm like, well, it's show business, and everyone forgets it's a business, and then that's like kind of where a lot of the like things never get made because people just don't understand how the business side of it works. But ultimately, like the thing that you want to make isn't just something that you're hoping is going to like give an ROI. Like you hope that the ROI comes from being something that people connect to as well, right? Like ultimately the story that you're going to latch onto or the reason why you love it, is because it speaks to something in you. And so even something like a fight scene, you can extend that and say like everyone kind of knows what it's like to like be angry or be hurt or like want to protect somebody or something like that. Not everybody knows what it's like to actually be in a fight and like or to know really how to fight or to be so good at fighting that like you've been in fights and don't even think about them as like an emotional experience or something. It's like there are different layers to that, right? That exist within people. But like you're gonna have to try to communicate something like that. Like Liam Neeson in Taken is supposed to be so fierce and badass that like he literally just gives a gravelly monologue on the phone because he's like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna come and I'm gonna kill you guys and like I'm gonna get my family back. Like it's just gonna happen. And
I'm
that's
gonna kill
such
you.
a
Yeah.
such a fun character, but then to like get an audience to resonate with that too, it's like it has to be something that does speak to them. And so you give them that little thing of like, why is he doing it? Like, why is this punch being thrown? Why are they going on this quest? Why is Keanu Reeves pulling this trigger? It's like you always remember every John Wick was because they killed that puppy. Yeah. And if anyone ever questions that, you're like, no, I would do the same thing. Like, if that was my puppy, like I saw the scene in the movie, I 100% would have been the John Wick in that if that happened to me, right? It just shows that, the stuff that people relate to, it's not like these super lofty things that are, out of the ordinary. It's very human, like what they're relating to. Science fiction is completely, this is something that's like not real at all, right? And fantasy, stuff like that, but they're all just reflections of something that you're dealing with, as a human being, just in the modern day. You know what I mean? X-Men is just about like kids coming out to their parents or like, racism and stuff like that. Like it's all about those topics and stuff. Like Star Trek was how you address concerns about society, without people turning away because they're like, oh, well, that's not really like, it's like I can learn about like trans issues or racism or something. Oh, wait, but they did it by encountering aliens on another world, you know. They're boldly going where no person has gone before, right? So stuff like that. To speak back to like, you know, Mortal Kombat, like that's the reason why I think we were trying to make why it was so important to us, because like we were fans of it too, and so like, you know, the audience is going to need certain things along the way, and like the script did definitely have things like, I'm pretty sure like the split, like Johnny Cage's nut punch on Baraka was like in the script, and I was all like, I remember when I read it in the script, I like cheered, and then I was like, of course it would be there, right? Of course we're gonna happen. It's like, okay, so here's the
Of
trick,
course.
and you know, Malay's heard me tell this like a bunch of times, but like I always call it like the birthday party problem, which is like, it's your birthday. It's like you're at work, and like your significant other says like, hey honey, like, you know, I'm not going to be home for a while, so you know, maybe if you got something to do, like, you know, just hang out and stuff, like I won't be back until later, so there's no reason to go home until you're like, okay, I'm gonna go home late. It's like, okay, I know what you're doing, you're planning a birthday party, like I'm gonna walk in and everyone's gonna go crazy, you know it's coming, right? But then you open the door and it's dark, there's no one home, the car's not in the driveway. Oh wait, this is weird. You walk into like the garage, boom, the lights come on, now everyone goes, oh, I'm so surprised. How do you surprise someone and get that payoff when they know it's coming, right?
That's
And
great.
you can't not give them the split punch to the nuts. That'd be messed up. You have to give it to them. That's like,
That's
dude,
a
did you not
disservice.
understand like what you were writing and stuff?
Yeah.
And they obviously knew. They put it in there, and I'm like, all right, how do we get them to not see this coming like a mile away, right? Because you need that great moment. That's such a joyous moment as a fan to get that, but like, you don't want to feel it coming. You don't want to know the surprise birthday party is
You
going
don't
to
want it
happen.
too on the
It's
nose,
so
or
much better if it's yeah. It's like, it's why like when we get to the blue portal fight,
Yeah.
he does that dragon kick out of nowhere where he flies at him and smacks him, you know, with his foot, and like it's on fire, and that gets a reaction from the audience. Like when we saw it the first screening, people were there. There's like a bunch of FGC influencers at that one, and they like went nuts when that happened. And we always sit there and like kind of look at each other. And we're like, there's one more.
And
There's
then-
one more move. And it's the one you always wonder if it's going to end up looking goofy or cool or
then-
not. And we were like, let's make it completely unseen, unforecast, and then have it be so good that people are like, and then it accomplishes and advances the next beat of the story, which is like, he didn't even do it on the guy. He used it to take his weapons away so he could sit there and like talk to him for one moment and really let him know what's going on. It was like so much, I think it's accomplished in something like that because we put so
Layer.
much like thought into it. And I'm sure there's someone out there who's smarter than us who could have come up with that like right away and be like, yeah, that's an easy solution. But I mean, we labored over it for so long because we were like, what am I going to feel when this happens? And what is the audience
Yeah.
going to feel in it? Because you have
That
to
purpose.
give them a bicycle kick in there. It's not, I don't think it was written in the script or anything. I can't remember
Oh,
if it
was
was
it?
or not, but like you can't, I'm not sure it was, but like
No,
you
it
can't,
wasn't. Yeah.
like you can't not give that to them, right? But when you do give it to them, it has to be in such a great way that like they are genuinely stunned and surprised and grateful that it's still there. You know what I mean? It's tricky. It's a hard thing to communicate sometimes because I think like there's movies that do this really well with like kind of like bookending things and like, you know, setting up those moments. Like the punch in Fearless I talk about a lot. The unwinding of his punch at the end and stuff is such a tearjerker moment because it's a summation of all of the story up to that point. And like a smart person would be like, oh, he's gonna kill him with the punch, right? So when you see him doing it, you're like, oh yeah, cool. And then the twist is that he doesn't. And so like even for being smart and feeling like the right move coming, they still got you with this thing that ends up being more important to the character's journey than anything else, which is that he like learned the lesson that is why his father never did that move, right? If you haven't seen Fearless, I don't know if it's like one of my
Oh,
favorite
man,
movies or not.
that's
It's
so good.
It's like
Yeah.
Oh, man.
the ending for
Go
sure is
watch it.
like one of that piece of fight choreography, that one beat, and like what it symbolizes as far as like an action design, like from that standpoint, I think is one of the most important things that like you can point to, you know, like for me personally, anyhow. So, Malay and I talked about it a lot. It's hard to do that. It's hard to come up with like an ending move to any fight scene.
I think there's like 20 or 30 minutes missing from the original cut where it's Jet's character in the village, and he's like he's really cultivating himself and that's how he changes his
The
stuff.
purpose of it and the storytelling aspect. And also, like with Mortal Kombat 2, as much as all the action design is amazing and it's interlaced with the story so well, the heart of this movie is Katana. Like from her as a kid, you just wanted to reach out and do something, and reaching all the way through the entire movie to the end. What was that like? I mean, we needed that big payoff, and you guys knocked it out of the park. Adeline knocked it out of the park. Like, what was it like? And also, you can also dive in. I had Daniel Nelson on the show, and he had did different some things as like Shao Kahn. He said, "I'm like Shao Kahn. He's a big dude. Martin's a big dude." So can you kind of go into those two aspects for me?
There's a lot to that whole thing. There's a lot to it. I will say that you kind of hit it also on the nail on the head. Like like we always knew Katana. Like I read the script first, and like I was like, oh, this is her story. This is like a story about her and her redemptive quest and everything like that. Because like if you notice in the finale, like Johnny Cage's part in that finale ends like long before the fight actually is over. Like it cuts back to like her. If spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, I guess. But like, well, I don't know why you're watching this thing if you haven't.
At this point,
but like the like, please go see it then if you haven't. Like box office needs to keep going higher. But like when we finished Blue Portal, like we sort of like this collective like, dude, we got to top it. Like how do you do that? That's going to be so hard. And I always think like it's very it's like the second act like showstopper or like the first act like or the opening of movies, like those action scenes are so much easier to do than the finale. The finale has so many other things always that like you cannot leave any strings undone. Like the I say this sometimes about like second acts in general, but like even in trilogies of like films, like why is The Empire Strikes Back like kind of the best one of the original trilogy? And you know, it's like it's because they can literally just ramp the stakes up to the highest point and then like resolution is movie three's problem to figure out. It's like, you know, it's like I'm gonna make this just the wildest. It's gonna have the most like jaw dropping, like heartbreaking things, and then well, we'll sort it out in the resolution. But like that to be continued sort of moment is always so good. Like you can just go balls to the wall on it, but then you have to do a third act, and then you have to actually make all that stuff somehow come to a bigger conclusion, and it's so hard to do. And this one was a massive intercut. Like when we saw the task at hand, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be like big. And to be fair, like that sequence was completely different from when we were shooting the first time, like pre-strike hiatus, and then after. The entire third act basically was like completely different as far as action design wise. And like a lot of what we had to do was envision like set design and envision characters and who they're going to interact with and stuff like sort of on our own and pitch a lot of wild ideas to them to see if that would like, you know, work for the finale. Because when we got down to the end of it after the strike like ended and everything, the second half of Mortal Kombat was very fast. Like there wasn't a lot of time to prep anything. We had to think on our toes. I think we did a rehearsal with the casting with the stunt team. It was like we had a presentation to do, and we finished choreographing this thing maybe like 30 minutes before they were going to come in. And I was like, we have to run it. People still didn't remember the choreography. It was like, guys, run it. We're going to walk it. And it's all hard because we were literally showing. It was like the NetherRealm scene, and it was like 4 fights happening at the same time, scenes, and like but like Noob Saibot interacts with the other Noob Saibot and the other fight scenes from where they're at. Like he would throw the sickle into the ground, and it would come out, and the other guy would block it and catch it, you know, something like that. And it was like, okay, freeze. All right, look at that fight over there. And 3, 2, 1, action. So then he catches that scythe, and then he goes here. And then like watch freeze. So back over here on this, and it was like completely insane, right? So that everything could sync up and the story was going to be very clear. All of that was also only half of the finale. The other half is all the stuff happening back in Edenia with Shao Kahn and Katana and all them.
We had like 20, 30 people in that room, just like
they lost it. Everyone was all like,
wardrobe,
what is going on?
Like everyone was there making yeah, it was intense. It was one of those like live plays where like you follow the actors around, you'd see them do a play, and you'd follow another actor and
it's
see
like
them
a
do their
theme
part
park
of the story.
attraction. So
like, okay, watch this part of the fight.
It was so wild.
Here,
but then like I think from the beginning we always knew that weirdly this is the story of like 2 heroes, right? And 2 heroes who have this very like a bit of a redemptive quest to go on and stuff too. She has to like recapture everything for her father. You know what I mean? She has to like essentially follow through on this lifelong revenge plan and stuff too. And then, you know, it's the story of like Johnny discovering like who he really is. It's the ending, you know, of the movie and stuff, but also like it's the monologue that they say in like the second trailer, which is so weirdly good, where he's talking about like it's not about destiny, it's not about like, you know, seeking greatness. It's about like going through something at the end of it, looking back and realizing the greatness was inside of you all along. And that's like such a 80s sort of action movie like trope and cliche and stuff too.
Yeah.
But it's such a great thing to remember that like we all kind of like start out, you ask any black belt, like, you know, what it was like for them. They're all like, oh man, like you really just sort of take it one step at a time and you get a little bit better. And when you look back, you're like, oh, I guess I did get my black belt. I guess I did put all those hours and I know that stuff, but I don't feel like I'm amazing. I just feel like I did a bunch of stuff, you know? And like, I guess that pays off and that equates to it, and like you get the things done. But like heroes don't think of themselves as being like heroes necessarily, even if they wanted to be, right? The best moments of Mortal Kombat are when people are down on their, at their lowest point, and it's the choices you make at your lowest point that determine if greatness exists in you or not. And we played this beat very specifically too, that like in the Netherrealm scene that Johnny's trying to get the amulet away and stuff, and it's a little bit more clear, I think, in our old version, because they chopped a lot of the finale out. Like there's probably there was a lot. We did a lot of stuff that didn't make it to the film, but there's a little bit more of a scene with him fighting solo against like, or it's like he sees the two noob Sabots fighting Scorpion, and for a moment like has to sort of distract him. So he looks at the amulet, and the whole story there was like, okay, you've got the amulet, get out of here. And then he kind of looks at it and says like, no, like I'm like, it's like he has this moment of, it's not, there's no more running. Like if I'm not going to stand here and fight and protect these people that have come to be sort of like the only people that I have cared about me and that I care about them, like if I run now, then like what is the point of saving anything at all? And so he like holds the amulet up and just starts taunting Noob Sabo. He's like, hey, like come on up here and get this thing, right? And then he literally offers him like the choice of like, you're gonna fall, hand me the thing. And he's like, why don't I just kick you and fall down anyway? And then he does it. And to me, that's the big hero moment where you really, they're pushing it on Carl's face and he's seeing it. All of that is like still so much of a small part of like what Katana is going through for the entire film, I feel like. And like that whole arc has to be like reflected on her side as well. When she's sort of just getting beaten down the entire time. And it's a hard thing to kind of choreograph, like knowing that there's no way to win, but like the characters are kind of stalling time or whatever. They're hoping that this thing, it's almost like you just have to keep fighting and hope that those other people do their part. But, there's no guarantee that you're going to win. So you're kind of just marching into an inevitable doom. But that's what makes her so powerful.
It's phenomenal storytelling throughout the whole thing. And I know it's got to be also an arduous task too, where it's like, these characters, several have like some fight sequences throughout. You don't want it like, because everybody has their moment, is what you guys really developed where it paid off. You don't want like the Johnny Cage Katana initial fight to outperform obviously the finale fight. And I love both your thought process going into this and your kind of like your approach to storytelling with action and design overall. I'm probably going to ask you the hardest question of this interview right now. I want both of you individually, give me your Mount Rushmore top 4 movies that inspired you for action design, stunts, so on and so forth. Like, I remember vividly, I was 1.5 years old, could barely form a thought at that age, and I remember my parents had Raiders of the Lost Ark on, and I remember going, I don't know what I'm witnessing, but it's something special. And that from then on, I was just this big movie buff and, so on and so forth. So what was kind of like movies like that for you with specifically stunt performing and fight design, choreography, things like that?
Man.
Only
4, huh? Lethal Weapon 1. There's something about the partner dynamic. It's not the usual buddy cop where like one's a silly goofy guy and one's a badass. It's just one guy's trying to retire and one guy's trying to retire from life, and that sort of created a new dynamic which you never really see. It's always like, I enjoy Rush Hour, right? But it's just two guys poking fun at each other. I can't think of Cash and Tango. Same thing. Like just two guys who banter back and forth, right? Not to say those aren't entertaining, but those are sort of in the same light that you've always seen. And Lethal Weapon was just something different, and I just enjoyed that dynamic a lot in terms of just how characters react to another. And then the one I would say that really got me into wanting to do Hong Kong style action was Police Story. Just the intensity of, the no holds barred, like we're just gonna do whatever we want. We don't have rules here. We're just gonna run cars through houses, and we'll pay these guys $100. And the level of just the stunts in that movie was just like, and Jackie says it himself. He's like, we didn't know what we were doing. We just did stuff. And when he came to do Rush Hour, that's when he's like, oh, there's actually safety nets on how to, do things the right way. I think that not having that boundary made him who he is. And that was sort of like the way EMC did things as well. Like we sort of emulated that style. Like, let's just do what we can because we have $0. And that's actually how I got this cut on my chin. So one of our members, Johnny Yang, his family owns a warehouse, or did own a warehouse. They sold it. and they had this I guess display of furniture that they didn't sell for a couple years, and I was like, I'm gonna fall through that table, and
That's a life
and it was
lesson
real
right there.
glass, and that's how I got this cut. That was back in 2008. So that was my Police Story 1 was like, damn, they went hard. This is our nod to that. Obviously, we couldn't run the cars through villages and stuff, but that was sort of like, okay, they did it. We have to do it. We cannot half-ass this. We got to go all out. And then in terms of flavor and rhythm and timing, Drunken Master 2.
It's up there, man.
Holy crap. Drunken Master 2 was like, what is this insane choreography? It seamlessly blended weapons, kung fu style. Its cinematography was awesome. And then like a blend of wire work. It didn't have that usual Jackie flavor where he's like bouncing around doing stuff a lot, but it had that nuance, the rhythm still. It still had that operatic rhythm with fight beats, and that was sort of like a new thing, not unlike his old Drunken Master and Fearless Hyena and stuff like that. And lastly, I would say Flashpoint. Flashpoint was a next evolution for me. It was like, oh shit, it looked like they were trying to hurt each other. When directors and producers ask for like, I want this fight to look real.
Yeah.
Well, a real fight is messy. Like it's not gonna be pretty. So how do you make that look presentable? Unless you're just throwing hands at each other, right? And then when Flashpoint came out, it was like, oh shit, they actually did it. They made it work. They shot it cinematically. They choreographed it, and it worked. And Mike and I got together in 2011 or 12 or something.
Yeah, it was around the time Special ID was coming out. We like Special ID hadn't come out yet, but we knew it was on the right. We'd seen the trailer for it, so it
Yeah.
was like
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of like
Special
a tribute
ID.
to like the Donnie Yen.
So yeah, Lethal Weapon for character dynamics, Police Story for stunts, Drunken Master 2 for its beautiful choreography and rhythm, and Flashpoint for its realism.
Michael, did he take any of your
Yeah.
answers?
He did actually, and all of those at some point are like in the top like 15 for sure, and and they're battling it out. They're going head to head like for the top spots. But like I'll go back in time. Like for me, like Flashpoint, like absolutely, like I'll just steal that one. That was like one of them and stuff. But like I'll just say that was, as a guy who trained like NHB, like I did like Taekwondo was our style, but we were really like no holds barred. We were like an MMA thing before they called it MMA, like before that term was like an actual thing. So like to see someone doing like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling and boxing and stuff in a Hong Kong rhythm, which I contend they've been trying to figure out how to like do something like that for a long time, and never, in my opinion, made it work it to the way where like people are going to want to watch this. When I saw Flashpoint, I was like, it's about to change everything. Everything. Like Hong Kong will never be the same after this. And to me, that was also, if you think about it, that's Donnie Yen's evolution as like a fight designer. I'm like, he has sort of been trying to figure out his own swag and flavor for a long time. That was for me when I saw Flashpoint, it like crystallized. And I'm like, he did that. He did like SPL. He did like Dragon Tiger Gate around the same time, Ip Man. And I was like, all of those are such hard bangers where it's like you're finally watching it because it's Donnie. And you're like, he's doing something that nobody else can do, but only he can pull it off that well. It really surprises you. You're like, how do we come up with something like this? Let's go and figure out how to do it. Like I need to know that I can also touch some of what his swag is on this, especially as an MMA dude, because I've been trying to put like duplexes and junk in choreography before, and it just looked like pro wrestling. And I'm like, but it doesn't feel like a Hong Kong movie, and that's what I was looking for. And like all of a sudden, it seemed like MMA is like an '80s like style Hong Kong tempo. Like he just did it. Like he did the thing that I've been I didn't know was my dream for so long, but I'm like, that's exactly what I've always wanted to see in a fight scene, right? So that's cheap. I'll just steal that one too as well. But it's like that was such a good one. I'd say like the fight for Drunken Master 2 is like it's so good, but to me, as far as influence, I almost always have to pick the first Drunken Master, because that one I remember burning the VHS tape like to death. Like I rented it from like a Blockbuster, copied it using dual VHS, and then like wore down that VHS tape so many times of watching it and just pausing it and rewinding it and trying to. Because that was when I first started really looking at a bunch of moves and being like, I have to go try to do this. And so you just go out in your backyard and you break like 9 of your bones trying to do the exact same thing, but you're like, there's no tricks, there's no camera. At that point in time, I'm still aware that there's wires, there's like, pads. Stuff. He's doing that. And it's like I think I was like maybe like 14 or 13 or something when I was watching it and going, these people can just do this stuff. Like there's no substitute for it. Like there's some things that are, like tricks and some things that are abilities. Jackie says that in like my stunts. And he's like, and this is ability. Like back in the day, that's really all they were doing. They were doing like 99% of it with their own bodies, long, unbroken takes. And not just him, all the performers. And you can say like, oh, it's very like sticky and like very like beady and stuff like that too. It's like, man, but they did it, and they make like 10 movies of those a year, which is insane.
That's hard.
And like the amount of creative stuff that they're doing in it. If you've never seen like an old school like 70s like Yen Wu Ping like Jackie movie or something like that, if you've never seen those, you literally have to. I don't think you can be a person in action and not have seen those, in my opinion. It's a disservice to yourself, right? 100%.
You got to study it. Yeah, it's an evolution. You got to know where your roots came from.
I love The Matrix so much, right? And it's because it's the first time that I saw them really doing a lot of this stuff. Not just like, because you'd see like Hong Kong movies and stuff like that, where it's like it's so modern and stuff like that. But to do a science fiction one where they are doing new camera tricks and ramping the motion, this is the first time I felt like I saw a Hollywood movie that I would see in like any other Hollywood movie, these kinds of like things, but with kung fu happening in them. Like legitimate Yen Wu Ping stuff happening with like jumping and ramping like while they're on the wire. I'm like, this is such a final introduction of like where this stuff is. Like we'd already been exposed to Jackie and Jet and stuff like that, but people still sort of held them in this separate category of like movies. They're like foreign films, right? Or whatever. It's like, but it wasn't like as mainstream as you would have really wanted it. And then when The Matrix came out, not only was it mainstream, it was like it changed everything for everybody. It's one of the greatest like movies that's ever been made. It still holds up today if you don't remember that they use like Motorola flip phones or whatever. Everything else still holds up. The lore of it, it was like an existentialist thing. That even the twist in it, like a lot of people hadn't seen, because they forgot about stuff like Tron or whatever. But it's like I was like, this again. It means that you no longer allowed to think of movies in the same way you did before. There was movies before The Matrix happened and movies after The Matrix happened. And that applies to the action aspect of that as well. Kung Fu movies after The Matrix are irrevocably like changed, right? You just have to acknowledge that The Matrix came and did its thing. And if you're not acknowledging that, like you are not choreographing in the present day, right? And then I think like probably because I'm trying really hard not to just pick all the other stuff, if you gave me like 10, you'd be hearing about like probably 6 more Jackie movies. Like you get Wheels on Meals and Project A and Police Story 2 and all that stuff, right? Yeah. But like all those things, right?
Oh, there's so much.
Maybe just the ladder scene from like First Strike or like Rumble in the Bronx was just amazing.
God, yeah.
But if I were really being honest about it and stuff and just going back to like influences that aren't just in that level, we would probably be Hard Boiled because it is one of the most immaculate action pieces of a film I think you can get. It's vintage John Woo, right? Like when he's in his full on prime, doing his thing, that crazy one in the hospital where they did it for real. And you can see wires on people and you're like, man, who cares? He went flying from that shotgun. It is essentially what like, it's like a modern version of like cop mythos crossed with like Hong Kong stuff, like where dudes get shot with shotguns and they go flying back like 10 feet and somehow Newton's third law is not in effect or whatever. You're like, that's something that every single movie always does, but like they don't ever do it as well as a John Woo movie, right? Yeah. The way that he coordinates how these story points happen in action. There's a scene, the one moment that I think owns almost every other action scene rent free in my head. Like I literally think about this like when I dream, right? Is like the warehouse scene where Tequila's like he's all the motorbike guys are coming in, right? And like he shoots that one dude like off the bike, and then the bike's low sides at him, right? And he jumps over the bike, racks the shotgun, blows up another bike, like while jumping over a bike in slow motion. That bike detonates, he lands and rolls out of the way as the bike smashes into him. Like just that one moment is like, it's so crazy to even think of that happening in choreography. And then to be like, okay, but then how would we plan it? And what would the shots be like? And then when you edit it to be like, there's like this unspoken moment. I'm sorry, I'm like nerding out about it now, but like Malay knows exactly what I mean. I hope everyone who's like an action aficionado sort of like knows this. There's like a moment where you just feel like now, or like, you know what I mean? And it's like the timing of like when he jumps, boom, boom, that shotgun blast is exactly the beat dropping in a dubstep song that everyone in the club knows.
If it's
Like
too long,
the
you missed it.
right moment,
Yeah.
then you're like, I would pull the trigger right now. And like the explosion, the payoff, the big boom of the bike like getting bright in the screen. If like I wish I'd seen that movie in theaters. I almost get like misty eyed thinking about like what
Oh
a
man,
treasure it would have been to see that
dude,
one moment on a big screen
Yeah.
would change your life, right?
they had a screening. They had a screening like
It's
6 weeks
we
ago
were
that
like
I
all
missed out
working
on.
and
I was
stuff.
like,
Like,
I wanted to go see it. So I'm gonna piggyback off of that. What you're talking about. So there's a shot in that scene that also lives rent free in my head, and it's one of my favorite shots. It's so basic, but the movement, the timing just works so well. It's I think he comes out of one of the offers or something, and he's crouched down. He drops
yeah,
his two
yeah, yeah,
guns. He
yeah.
pulls out the shotgun, turns around, just pumps a tick, and it's very simple. And the camera just does this with him, and just the feeling and the timing of when it lands and shoots, it's just perfect. Just those little nuances. It tells not just like cinematic moments. It's like the nuance, like what's the energy that we're trying to sell here. It's him like I gotta bail on this. I gotta turn. Oh shit! It's another guy. Boom! So the camera just finds the right timing, and
Yeah.
you just
So
feel
good.
it right in that
Moment,
moment.
yeah.
And it's so good. Just that one shot is so good.
It's like the it's like the corkscrew like splitting up punch thing, right? The audience has to like feel it coming and like get it at the exact right moment, and then not like, but you can't just show them something they've seen before, right? And like moments like that, I think John Woo is maybe one of the best at constructing those. If you go back and watch his movies, anytime, any of those big ramp meet, like slow motion, those shots of guys coming out and like just pulling their guns out and stuff, it feels so right. Like not just cool, but like when you think about a cool thing in your head, it's like that. You know, you'll see other movies like try this and stuff like that. Like you'll see a lot of them do like the slow motion on the bullet, and we follow the bullet, and then it like hits this guy and stuff. And you're like, it just maybe it would be better if you just held off like a few frames here. Like maybe like I would ram back into regular motion. Like here it is, just something that like everyone's kind. It's a subjective thing. Not everyone's going to think the same way, but most people, when you show it to them, they go, yeah, you're right. And that's some of the, even like the movies that like we love. We'll sit there and think like, oh, but if they just did this one thing with the rhythm of it, I think maybe it would be better. You know, there's this part in Flashpoint that I always get on because it's my favorite. It's like it really is like maybe my favorite like Hong
end.
Kong like fight movie and stuff for all
the
those reasons
end.
we said.
Yeah.
And there's that part where like at the end when he's tooling up Colin Cho and like he goes for that. Yeah, he goes for the big wind up.
I was gonna bring that up.
Bung, and hook punches him, and then like you feel like that should be the end of the fight. That's the fighting move. And then it just cuts and he slow motion side kicks him. That knocks him down. And you go, you look cool doing the kick. There was a cool reaction to the kick.
Oh,
Why does it not like land? And for me, I'm like, because you built it up to this other moment, like with this big haymaker punch. And then I don't think the kick was necessary. I think it's just, it's one of those things that like, even in like maybe my favorite like fight scene of all time, I'm like, I still would have like changed just that little bit for a personal taste, like just because of that rhythm thing, you know?
yeah. When we did our homage to it, that's how we sort of end our fight too. Is like I punch Mike in the face. Like I'm gonna punch you in the face. He's like, okay. So I punch him, right? I'm like, but how do we end this? Like I don't want to end just on a punch. We have to make this a little more extra. And I think with their version, that sidekick just wasn't the right move. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna act kick you as you're falling down. And I think that's sort of
Yeah.
a cooler surprise. And it's like, I got you, but as you're going down, I'm gonna keep hitting you. And that was sort of our version of like, how do we make this one a little better than the one that they had?
I feel like in Special ID, I think he kind of corrected it and stuff too. Like I think in the end fight is not as good, but I think his fight with Andy on at the end of that movie,
Yeah.
the final hit in it is like you did the thing. Like that's what I wanted it to feel like in Flashpoint and stuff. I went back and edited my own version of him
Yeah.
doing it where he winds up and then like hook punches Colin Joe and then it just cuts to him falling into the pillar or whatever, the crate or whatever it is. And I'm like,
Into the fence.
D,
Yeah.
like what do you guys think? Like I think like it. I kind of wish I just re-edited the movie and just had that, and then it lived. But like again, like I don't know. I wasn't there on the day. It who knows what the constraints and stuff were on them and whatnot, and like why they do it. It's like and trust me,
Who knows? Yeah,
if
yeah.
if someone had like asked me to like create all this stuff in Flashpoint, I'd be like, no, I'm not good enough. I might have that one critique about the ending from a personal standpoint, but when I look at that movie, like
Yeah.
trust me, I am not actually good enough to do that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? That is something very special.
My biggest take from this conversation today, and for the audience watching and or listening, these are the guys you clearly want behind your Mortal Kombat movie, your action design for movies, because it's not like you just watch something and go, dude, that was kick-ass. You know, you have the storytelling, the beats, the pacing through, like, since 2020 doing the podcast, I've befriended the original Mortal Kombat video game actors that were award-winning martial artists that went into this. So like Hosung Pak
Hosung's the man. We love that guy.
He's amazing.
Hosung.
For Mortal Kombat 2, I got to see your work with the original, most of the original cast of the original video game franchise. All I can say is it's very surreal. I'm sitting here next to John Parrish, Jax. I'm sitting next to Anthony Marquez, Kung Lao, and they're losing their mind over
Crazy,
it.
man.
Like, you know, like, how does that feel hearing that? Like, the original Kung Lao, Anthony Marquez is like, they did it justice. Yes.
Dude,
Man. Yeah, that's wild.
That sort of warms my heart. Yeah, just when you get praise from the original like cast, creators, designers, that's when it's sort of like we're trying to pay homage to what you guys have already done, and to get that approval means like we've done our job. We put our heart and soul as much into it as you guys did back then, and that's sort of just the goal in general.
So it's funny, like one of my biggest mentors is a director and former stunt coordinator named JJ Perry, and he played Scorpion, like in the original Mortal Kombat movies and stuff. He was like Johnny Cage stuff. It's like he really helped create a lot of that stuff. He was Sub-Zero in the TV show and stuff too. Like it's like, and obviously like just in general, like to try and like live up to something that your mentor has like done. You're like, you're mostly thinking like, how am I not going to screw this up? Like, I can't screw it up. Like, it's very important, right? And then you remember that it's Mortal Kombat, and it's not just like, oh, my mentor was like a big part of the original movies. It's also like, dude, the thing about doing something like a Mortal Kombat is it belongs to everyone. Like, even if even if you had no hand in creating it, if you just like bought it on like Steam or something or whatever you're playing, or it's like you just put arcades in a machine or something, it's like it is like a cultural revolution that we all took part in, from like the early 90s on and stuff. It's a staple of an entire like community of gaming, like a whole genre that like you cannot speak about Street Fighter or King of Fighters in like the same breath without mentioning Mortal Kombat, as the other big one that everyone remembers. And like, you owe it to so many people to not screw this thing up, And so when you hear that like people who were part of that original thing, like, that it meets their approval, like we got to meet, like, that was the craziest thing. Like, we met Ed Boon. Well, I did, I guess. He was in and out really quick on like set one day and stuff. It was like,
oh, he's like the bartender, right?
so we didn't.
Yeah,
we
we
saw
were
him
there
just
for
then
that.
briefly. Malay didn't, and he was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "I'm sure he'll be back." I think the next time we saw him was at the premiere for the movie, just like a month ago.
Never came back.
And we're talking to him outside. Obviously, he's swamped by everywhere. There's so many people that they know him. He's like, he created this legacy, right? And so I went up to him, I was like, "Hey, sir, I don't know if you remember me. I was, my name's Mike. This is Malay. We were the other fight coordinators on the show." And so he was like, "Of course I remember." He came up, like, gave us a hug, and was all like, "You guys did amazing. We love your work, guys. This is my friend John Tobias." And it was like, we were like we're aware what was going on. Like, my heart was like racing and stuff. Like, yeah, it was so wild. And that, both of them were like, "Dude, you guys did such amazing work. You guys should be very proud. Like, it's so cool to see like, like these characters up on screen doing this stuff." And we were like, I can't even speak about what that feels like even now. You know what I mean? Because you just think there's no way that can't possibly be true. Like, when I talk to those guys and I think about it, I don't imagine them being like the young dudes making the game. Like, I just imagine whoever they were. Like, I imagine myself as being like this little boy. You know what I mean? Like, sort of in reverence of this whole thing. Like, when you're thinking about Mortal Kombat as like a thing that exists, it's so much bigger than any one person. It's like it belongs to all, like an entire culture. And you're like, man, if we did that culture right, then like no matter what anyone says, like, we're 100% proud of like what we did.
Yeah, I think 1,000%. What makes it a good action sequence, and how to approach that, and what makes it shitty? Let's get like a back and forth. I say that because there's a bit of both worlds here. You can't have one without the other to learn and develop this. So let's kind of pick your brains a little bit, put us in your shoes. You're writing a script sequence on it, and then boom, previs, and then shooting.
Think one of the, at least for me, the one of the bigger challenges is interpreting what the scene means to you, right? Sometimes when you take it at face value and you're just, I'm just gonna do what it tells me. You're sort of missing out on little nuances of story and character, and which plays into the element of how you're gonna design your fights, what moves you're gonna do, how the rhythm you're gonna stick to it. And so when you understand the script a little more, and it's okay to ask questions, like you can have a discussion with each other, you can have questions you can shoot to the producer or writer and director and be like, if you really don't understand it, okay, what's the end goal there? What are we trying to achieve in this small scene? What's the arc here? And what how does that play into the whole overarch of the story? And that's sort of like the first step is you read it, you break it down, and you figure out what is happening before you start even throwing punches at each other. Because it's we say this all the time. It's like anyone can choreograph a fight. Punch, punch, kick, block, dodge. That's choreographing. But we're here to tell a story. Like, what do you do to serve the story the best? And then just kind of build on from there.
When we're working on like bigger shows, obviously they just give us the script and they're all like, "Hey, this is what it says to do." And your first question will be like, "Hey, director, like, is this what you want? Like, do you want it exactly like how close are you married to like the script and like how has to go?" And obviously, if it's like they also wrote it, it's like a writer director thing. They're probably pretty clear on it, or maybe not. Like sometimes they'll just feel like, "Oh, I'm totally open. I just put that as a placeholder." Blah. But like, it's so much of it is just communication. You're talking to like these people to kind of find out like what, like when I was saying like, what's the point? What are we trying to accomplish in the story of it, and what does it mean for the plot going forward? Like when these things have to happen, do we have to, I think I treat I'm like an old theater guy and stuff, but I treat fight scenes in action movies or any kind of action scene in an action film like a song in a musical, right? And like if you just have music for music's sake, then like that's very weird. The whole point is that the scene has to be done as like a song. Like those are the time when your biggest like character changes, like your biggest beat changes, like all their motivations, everything, like it gets called into question. They change, they make discoveries. That's all going to happen in those big pieces. In an action scene, you should still have like the plot unfolding and the characters arc being explored and like resolving at the end of it. These people should not be the same person they were before the action scene started. Like something should happen at the end of it where they are changed, as a human being or whatever. And I think sometimes action movies, even in the writing, can kind of sometimes forget it. But if you look close enough, like I think it's very hard for someone to write anything and not accidentally just put a lot of their real motivations up in it. It's the one thing that sort of is an argument against like AI, I guess, is that like AI is always going to like have an example of a thing to do. But like sometimes like you don't want to know what the example is. Sometimes people want to just pull from what their own life is and their own soul. And sometimes that just ends up in there and you go, oh, I feel like this is like him proving he's gonna beat this guy down. I feel like it's in front of this kid. It's because he always wanted to prove himself to like the son that he lost or whatever. I don't know. It's like some extraction stuff for you there. It's like this is about like a guy who lost his kid, so he's like he's trying to protect the kid now. It seems like those things, like even if people are like, oh yeah, I guess that's sort of like an obvious thing or whatever. It's like yeah, but now like how do you explore that with like fight choreography and action design? Okay, cool. Like maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's like in the move he has to do a thing where he pulls the kid behind him, or he like grabs this guy, like pulls him on top of him to like sacrifice himself, or he takes this gunshot. Who knows? Small things like that. Like and Mortal Kombat was literally always that because you have one-on-one fights between characters, and it's not like you're killing a bunch of goons. You know what I mean? Like just random thug jobbers or whatever. You're fighting two people whose like story is like potentially their character ends here. This is like the most important thing in every moment, moments of their, moment of their screen time. You almost have to always treat it like that because that's what everything else he did. It's like normally if you were to get into like a fight, you get into a car accident. Think of any of these things that like stand out as like things that you don't do just every day. They do change you a lot like afterwards. It's like a kind of an exclamation point in the middle of a paragraph of your life, and that's important. You have to honor all those emotional stakes and everything, and so just always be looking for those. Always ask the question why. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And then keep going further and further. But okay, then and then why? Okay, yes, and then but, and then just have those conversations. If you have someone like Malay, like it's really easy to sit there and be at the gym and be like, for like an hour after work and be like, wait, maybe what about this? What about this? What if we did something like this? It's like
Yeah.
she uses one style for when her fans are closed and one when they're open and stuff. So we kind of blend those two and like, what would her version of that be? Considering it's like, oh, okay, cool. She's like a duality thing. Like she hides her true identity from like her father and stuff, but all the while she's trying to like plan her revenge and whatnot. It's kind of like you show one side of the weapon, the other side of the weapon, and all that stuff. It was 100% conversations that Malay had like when we were first talking about the script and stuff, is coming up with just katana style. And then poor Addie had to like learn all of that stuff. Like, okay, you may not even understand why we're asking you to do this exact thing with your hand. You have to do it for the shot. And she'd just be like, okay. And then she'd be mad at herself when she didn't get it right. And you're like, oh, she put in immense amounts of time, right? Because she saw what that story was. And,
Oh my
as an
God.
actor, of course,
Yeah.
she's adding the why into everything that she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think once she saw that we were trying to do the same thing and like give her an avenue to perform all that stuff, actors, they really want to be creative. They really want to like push and like challenge themselves, most of the time. And with action, especially even if they don't come from that action world, like if you give them that connection into it and then they take it and run with it, what you're doing is building something that an audience member absolutely is going to understand about the story at that point in time. And then when she does like a gruesome fatality to someone at the end, people don't just go, ooh, they go like, yeah, like get them. You know what I mean? Like everyone's like, yeah, that's what I would have
Yes,
done. It's
finally.
like, it's John Wick shooting anybody, like, at the end of like a movie. It's all like, yes, get him. It's like, I don't want to be violent, but he had it coming. It's like that sort of thing. It's, it's all justified, and that's because you've been taken on a real journey that you can respect, and that happens with those kinds of conversations.
As an audience member, that pulls you in. I mean, you guys do your part of making the film, but the other, let's say 2/3 is writing, directing, action design, all that. But the other 1/3 of that equation is the audience participation, and how do you get them to? And this is like a treasure trove of knowledge and concepts of how to do that. And I would imagine too, like on set, you guys have moments too. It's a little different when you're in the environment. We're like, hey, actually, the camera move over here. Do you had like moments of that where it's just? I know you had that one thing. It was like, hey, the last 30 minutes we had to do this thing. But do you ever get on set and you're just like, man, like ad-libbing or improvisation on certain sections, even though it was like really pre-vised out?
Sometimes I think sometimes like cast might add stuff too. Like a lot of the times, like they
feel
might.
like-
I kind I want to do this. Are you okay if I do
Yes,
this? And you're like,
yeah.
yeah, let's try it. Let's see what it looks like. And then sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. Other times you're like, we don't have time for it or something like that. It's trying to help make sure that everyone gets like the right vision and stuff out and works within the constraints of the day. I think that's the hardest part about when you get on set is like anything that you haven't prepped suddenly becomes like a thing you have to figure out, and like that's getting spent, and there's already like not enough time. Like we would come in and we would do all these shots, but then you forget that there's things like IMAX shots that have to be done. It's like, okay, well, what's the shot that's specifically going to be for the IMAX that we have to like think about that, like where are we going to show off this part of the set and hide these Easter eggs in there and stuff like that. And that's a conversation that luckily we had way early. So like I can't speak for Malay. I feel like that's how we did it on Mortal Kombat 2. It was like 95% of it was prepped very, very much to the point where like we knew all the answers going in, because you are going to have things that randomly sort of happen, like, oh, this rock is too big, it's going to end up be here on the set. It's like, oh, like I now that I'm wearing the prosthetic, it's like they added this other thing into it. Now like my knives are too long or something. It's not that happened, but you're going to find like weird little things like that, and you want to mitigate that as much as possible so that way you're not walking to it. Yeah, if you walk into a situation,
Minimize,
especially with action,
yeah.
and like you don't have all of those questions already solved, it's inviting risk into something that's already kind of inherently risky. We're not doing like a bunch of like car or fire stuff or anything like that, or like high falls, but fights are still kind of dangerous. They can be. That's the basic level of danger. And like we had a lot of wire gags in that movie, like Johnny Cage going out of a building, up in the air, down into another building. And like when you see the behind the scenes of like the area that he had to land in, it's like a catcher's mitt. Like the guy is really dialed this in, because if he didn't land right, it was probably his. I mean, it potentially is a broken neck, right? To have any unanswered questions or anything unprepared at that point in time could be catastrophic. And not to be a downer, but like we've seen that happens, like friends on sets and stuff before. Like we've lost friends like to this career. So it is not without risk, and like you want to make sure that that's as minimal of a thing that ever happens as possible. But I mean, if the actor has like a cool shape that they want to do and it doesn't like really change him, you're like, bro, that's your character. Like, please go for it. It's like let's make sure. Okay, maybe we move the camera this way. He's gonna drop real low on his stance now and stuff to do this thing. So maybe like if we shift the camera down low and we do this long push in over here, like what do you think about that? We're like, yeah, let's do it. We got time. It's like, okay, so we're going to be on like the, like lower to the ground and like higher and stuff. As long as the director's cool with that, like go for it. TP sets it up and then it looks great. And then you have these new sort of surprises that you didn't realize were going to be on your coordinator reel for the rest of the time.
Do you have anything upcoming that you guys want to promote or talk about?
Go see Man on Fire. Malay's on Man on Fire. I was in this thing. Oh, you can't see it. I have this thing for it. It says
Man
like
on Fire.
Mike and Nick and Alice. That movie just came out on Hulu and stuff. We did that was like back in like April, I think it came out.
Hulu.
But yeah, go watch that on Hulu. We got some cool action and stuff in that.
Oh, and The Adventures of Cliff Booth.
Yeah.
Really
It's gonna
stoked
be
for
really
that.
cool.
Design some
Really
of the fights in
pumped
that.
for
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Methods of Fiction. To hear more insights from filmmaking and entertainment industry professionals, subscribe to our video podcast on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to follow us there as well. We look forward to having you join us again on the next episode.